Welcome to This Explainer. We've spent literally over 1,000 hours studying the most successful people on the planet to build you this one structured playbook. And here is a wild fact to put things into perspective. Billionaires make up about 0.0004% of the global population. It's just a tiny fraction. So forget the surface-level fluff or that generic PR advice you usually hear. Today, we're breaking down the exact, hidden mental models and strategic moves that this elite group actually uses to win. Okay, let's dive right into the absolute foundation of our analysis. It is not what they say publicly, but how they actually move. Public relations statements? They're crafted to sound good. They're super polished. But the real mechanics of success? Those are never stated directly in press releases or sunny interviews. No, you have to watch the behavior behind the scenes. You really have to watch where the money and the energy actually go. Which brings us to the core challenge of today's explainer. Are you ready to change how you move? See, the insights we're about to unpack absolutely demand action. It's one thing to just sit back and passively consume this info, right? But it's another thing entirely to actively adopt these insider strategies and actually transform your own life and business. So, to make this super actionable, we've organized the playbook into 4 pillars. Pillar 1, rewriting your mindset. Because honestly, before you can build the wealth, you have to engineer the internal psychology to sustain it. The very first mental shift is how you handle rejection. Think about it. Most people hear the word no, process it as a personal attack, and just immediately retreat. Well, the billionaire mindset processes no entirely differently. They simply hear, "Oh, you didn't explain it well enough yet." They literally do not accept rejection as final. Instead, they objectively refine their pitch, adapt, and try again. It's a completely different, totally empowering framework. And that objective framework, it has to extend to your own history too. Look, excuses are incredibly easy to make, but they act like heavy chains. If you're constantly looking backward or blaming your circumstances, you just become paralyzed. Your past absolutely does not decide your future. Only your daily actions do. Now, people often think these highly successful individuals just don't feel fear. Like they have ice in their veins. That is entirely false. Fear doesn't magically disappear just because you hit a certain tax bracket. True courage is moving forward and taking action even when fear is sitting right there beside you. You simply make the choice to sprint anyway. Everyone, and I mean absolutely everyone, reaches a point where the climb gets overwhelmingly hard and they just want to sit down. That desire to quit is completely normal. But continuing when everyone else, including yourself, wants to stop? Wow. That is the magic. That is the exact friction point that separates the absolute elite from the average. To anchor this resilient mindset without completely burning out, remember the power of the number 1. A major recurring theme in our analysis is that most people fail simply because they try to juggle everything all at once. To win, you must master just one thing first. Go all in, win at that single pursuit, and only then do you actually earn the right to expand. All right, moving right along to Pillar 2, building the business engine. Now we're shifting from that internal psychology to the tactical, day-to-day mechanics of building an enterprise. Every successful business rests on 3 non-negotiable pillars: a strong operator, a real problem being solved, and a market willing to pay. It's exactly like a 3-legged stool. If a business misses even one of these, like say you have a great operator and you're solving a real problem, but literally no one wants to pay for it, the whole structure inevitably collapses. But hey, what if it does collapse? What if you lose absolutely everything? Well, the playbook to rebuild is surprisingly straightforward. Step 1, offer a service. Step 2, keep your costs extremely low. Step 3, generate fast cash. If you ever hit 0, don't panic. Just follow this exact progression to rapidly rebuild your capital without relying on massive outside funding.
In today's landscape, though, executing those steps requires one major lever: artificial intelligence. You've got to use AI for speed, specifically to build, to test, and to create. Speed matters now more than it ever has in human history, which really makes AI a mandatory requirement, not just an optional little tool, for competing in modern markets.
However, moving fast does not mean doing everything at once. Actually, scratch that. Trying to perfectly balance 100 different tasks is an impossible trap. The playbook dictates choosing exactly what matters most today and aiming directly at that specific target. Forget perfect balance, guys. Embrace targeted obsession.
And where should that targeted obsession go? toward people. You have to study people to make money because, well, all money ultimately comes from them. You need to deeply understand what they want, what they fear, and what they need. Decode those 3 human drivers, or you simply won't generate any meaningful revenue.
Okay, on to Pillar 3, the rules of wealth. This is all about how these individuals actually maneuver through complex markets to accumulate and protect their capital. Here is one of the most vital wealth concepts you will ever learn. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in the hourglass, being paid for their hours. But true wealth? That's found by being paid for your impact. The bigger and more complex the problem you smash through, the more you earn. You have to aggressively shift your focus from tracking time spent to measuring value created. So what happens when the market shifts? What happens when the headlines get super scary and everyone else completely panics? Understanding market behavior in these volatile moments is the ultimate separator between the emotional masses and the calculated top performers.
While the average person runs for the hills when prices drop and gets completely caught up in the hype when the market is booming, the billionaire playbook is strictly contrarian. They literally step in to buy when prices plummet and blood is in the streets. Conversely, they deliberately slow down and act with extreme caution when the market is overly hyped. It is all about disciplined, unemotional execution.
And regardless of market conditions, there is one constant rule for capital. Money sitting still dies. You cannot just hoard it in a cage or let it stagnate in some zero-interest bank account. No way! You must constantly use it, invest it, and keep it flying so it actually grows. For wealth to compound, movement is absolute life.
Finally, Pillar 4, playing the long game. This is the philosophical approach to avoiding the traps of early victory and finding your ultimate purpose.
It all begins with the relentless commitment to growth. If you stop learning, you immediately fall off the back of the treadmill. The world is moving incredibly fast, so maintaining a rigorous, daily habit of learning is just mandatory if you want to stay sharp. Complacency? That's the absolute fastest route to irrelevance. You also have to stop chasing those fragile, quick wins. It is incredibly tempting to chase whatever trend is hot today, kind of like catching bubbles for a fast payout. But true generational success is about laying bricks. It's about prioritizing a lasting legacy over temporary, short-term hype. And if you really want the endurance to build that legacy, you have to look outward. Working solely for yourself inevitably leads to a drained battery and serious burnout. It's just not enough fuel for the long haul. But working for something bigger than yourself, lifting up an industry or a whole community, that is what actually generates endless energy and momentum. Which brings us to the final, absolutely critical question of this explainer. Will you apply this so you can move, think, and win differently? These lessons aren't hidden. They are just ignored by the masses because they require grueling discipline and real courage. The playbook is wide open right in front of you, so the only question left is, will you stay with the crowd, or will you step out and make your move?